Hi everyone and welcome back to Waterhouse Forde. Well, it's been a busy couple of weeks with tractor runs and tractor shows, but we're starting to get back now to the videos on the Ferguson TED20. Today I want to do something slightly different. Some of you may recall we restored this TVO tap. If you've seen that video, if you haven't, I'll put a link up above. One of the things that was missing was the gauze that goes above the glass bowl. Now, I've not been able to find one of those, so what I have done is I've purchased some wire gauze, this mesh, and I'm hoping to cut basically the two circles that'll allow us to make that gauze. So that's what this video is about. I've got a few ideas on how to do that. I imagine I believe that the cuts need to be quite precise. Not much point in having a gauze if there's big gaping holes on the edges. So that's the topic for today. Now, as far as I understand it, the gauze needs to go underneath this cork washer. So it needs to be this diameter here, the inside diameter of this brass piece, and then it needs to sit around that brass piece in the middle there. So those are the two circles that need to be cut. Now, just trying to work out how to do this, but essentially the outside diameter of that glass bowl is the diameter that we need for inside there. And for that centerpiece, I'm going to have to measure that and find something the right diameter in order to mark out the circle, the circumference that we need. So put that to one side. So this is our gauze, and I figured what I would do is simply draw around that bowl with a Sharpie, and that should give us the diameter that we need. As long as I cut on the inside of that black line, I think this Sharpie might be running out, but let's see. I think that'll still be visible. So there we go. We've got our first circle that needs to be cut. Now, the first way I want to try and do this is I want to see if I can find a metal object that's that kind of diameter. For example, a socket, possibly, something like that, and try, and hopefully it'll have a sharp enough edge, and basically try and hammer all the way around, and that will hopefully cut the diameter that we need. If that doesn't work, as you can see, I've got plenty of gauze. So if that doesn't work, I think the next best option would be to basically using perhaps a pair of tin snips to try very, very carefully to cut that circle. But I think most of you will know, if you've ever tried to do that, that's not the most precise way of doing it. Okay, what I found is this old bearing race, which seems to be just about the right size. Actually, the internal diameter here is just about right, and the external diameter is just a little bit too big. I've never done this using an internal diameter before, so I'm not entirely sure how this is going to work, but I'm going to give it a go. And to make this a bit easier, I thought about cutting this out, cutting a square out and then doing, but I think it's going to be a bit easier if I actually hold it. Keep it whole, because that gives me something to actually hold it with. But it is important that when you're doing this, that the gauze doesn't move. So I will have to hold it quite tight, and I'm hoping my hand won't be in the way of the video too much. But hopefully it'll work. So what I have is this ball peen hammer, and I'm going to use the ball side. And I'm going to tap just inside this race and make sure this is 100% right, and obviously hold it real tight so it doesn't move. And here we go, let's see if it works. Okay. Now, in my mind, that should have cut by now, and it hasn't. So it seems that this gauze is a lot tougher than I thought it was. You can see on this side, it has, I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but it has actually created an indentation. But it really hasn't cut the wire. It's flattened it, and we do have a very well-defined circle there, but it hasn't actually cut it. Now that's partly because, I think, because the race isn't actually, it's not a sharp edge, it's actually been chamfered. And I think it's just not sharp enough really to cut the gauze. Okay, I'll get the tin snips and we'll give that a go. Okay, so that didn't work. I do have these very fine tin snips, and I'm hoping that they are going to be able to cut this mesh, but also that they'll do it in a relatively precise manner. There it goes. Look, it's not 100% perfect, but I think it'll just about do. Right, let's get rid of some of these little bits of wire. Don't want those sticking into anything. Right, now the interesting thing, of course, is that we now need to cut the centerpiece out. And in fact, before I do that, we should probably just check the if that's right. Look, I think it's almost there. Don't know if you can see that on the camera, but it's just about there. Now I mean obviously the important thing now is to get this hole in the center. What I did do is I found a socket which is about the diameter of that edge there. Let's see if I can come a bit close to the camera for you, but there is this face, this edge here, and I believe that the gauze needs to sit on that. So it needs to, that's the diameter that we need to cut. And looking at this socket, it is just about the right diameter. It's slightly bigger, so what I know is that I need to cut again on the inside of the circle that I might draw here. The next challenge is finding the center of this circle, and I had an idea to use a protractor, a compass, and draw at least 3 arcs, and you draw a cross between where the arcs meet. But I thought actually there's an easier way, and that is to put the gauze on here, line it up as best I can, and basically mark. I can actually see this brass piece in the middle here. And essentially that gives me my center. Now, if I put the socket down, I can center that dot I've just drawn inside the socket, which is about there, and basically just draw around the circumference of the socket. Like that. So that's giving me pretty much a circle. The challenge now, I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do this, is to try and cut that circle out. Again, ideally you'd have something that you could just punch through there, but I'm not sure that I do have such a thing. So what I'm going to try and do is if I can at least get a start with the tin snips, and get them in there. I'm struggling with that. And I know if you bent this, you could cut through the center, but I'm afraid if I bend it, I'm going to land up with a crease, which I don't really want. Pretty sure if I can just get it started, I'll be able to cut that circle out. There we go. I think it's started now. Doesn't look to me to be in the center, but right. So I think the next step really is to actually try it on the tap. See where we get to. So the first thing I want to do is take this cork gasket out. And you obviously need to be really careful because that is new. And I don't want to break that. That came out a lot easier than I thought it would, but there you go. Alright, so that we can see is not quite right. It needs to be bigger. So it's not even going around the first piece, and of course it actually needs to go around the bigger piece. So we need to make that hole a little bit bigger. I really wish there was a more precise way of doing this. And I'm sure there is. I'm sure some of you will be able to share in the comments your ideas, or perhaps your experience, knowledge of doing this. Now, look, that is almost there. This side is fine, but we definitely need to take more off this side. I think I might actually try and sharpen these tin snips a little bit and see if that helps. Okay, I've tried to sharpen these. I'm not sure if it's worked, but let's see. Just ran an oil stone over the cutting edge, just to hone it a little bit. And look, that seems to have worked. Now what we want is, we kind of want this to be a little bit concave as well. Just like that. And what I'll do is just flatten that down where I stuck a screwdriver into it. And hopefully that's just about there now. Now look, I'm happy with that. That is looking pretty good. That fits nicely on the outer edge, and you just have to tweak it, just nip it over the center, and that's great, because that means there are no gaps there. There's no gaps here. The cork gasket's going to go on top to help it seal. That's sitting all the way down. So now we'll get the cork gasket back in. And there you go. Lovely gauze. It'll just stop any large particles from coming through and prevent them from getting into your engine. The glass bowl back, and just nip that up. I'm not going to over tighten it at this stage. Obviously when we put it on the tractor and we start running fuel through it, we will probably need to tighten it up a bit. But well, there you go. That's how I made the gauze to go in the TVO tap. Basically how it works, of course you select whichever fuel you're running on at the time with the tap. The fuel passes through into the bowl and then goes back up again through that gauze and out the output or the outlet off to the carburetor. And that gauze is really there almost as a last defense. The primary purpose or the primary objective of the sediment bowl is to allow any particles to drop to the bottom and settle on the bottom, and therefore not pass through. But of course, some things perhaps there might be turbulence in the bowl. There might be things that are perhaps a bit more buoyant than others, and they may actually get to the top. And of course that gauze is there just to prevent them from passing through. So there you go. Look, I hope it's been informative. I hope that you've enjoyed the video. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We've got a lot more material to cover. We are going to go through this entire tractor piece by piece, and of course that's going to take a very long time. So subscribe and click the bell icon, then you'll be notified when we publish a new video. We're trying to do at least one video a week. Sometimes it'll be more. It just depends on how we go. But of course, if you use the notification feature on YouTube, then at least you don't have to keep coming back to check. It'll actually inform you when we publish a new video. Yeah, and please share with your friends if you know anybody who might be interested in the channel, interested in what we're doing. Please share it with them and encourage them to subscribe as well. Yeah, and we look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thanks everyone. Cheers.